Okay, hello everybody. It is time for me to put out my review of Wind and Truce, the fifth book in the Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson. There are a lot of reviews floating out there. I have seen several of them, and admittedly, a lot of them, I agree with a lot of them on most points. There are a few that I differ a little bit, but there are some elements that other reviewers have not addressed, and I am going to hope to touch on those elements. Other people have mostly talked about character stuff, um, and the prose stuff. I do have some choice words about the prose stuff. But first off, without any spoilers, I came away from the book kind of mostly liking it. I was satisfied with the ending. Most of all, I personally was okay with I personally liked the wrap up of all the characters that happened for the most part. There's one exception to that. It is one I've heard before though, so I'll keep it short when I mention it in the spoiler section. Yeah, so my issues with the book are not character related. Yeah, so I liked the book. I liked not the book. I liked the story. Specifically, I liked the story and the character arcs that drew to a close. The book itself, I'd say like a 6 out of 10. That's what I'm feeling right now. That's what I'm feeling. Yeah, so it was a good story, but overall, for the book, I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10 because the editing was just it was painful. It was painful to get through it. As somebody who writes and aspires to put stories out and who has studied this stuff, the editing was painful. Yeah, so if you're very into the Stormlight Archive, which for the rest of it, I liked. I liked the rest of the Stormlight Archive. I do recommend the Stormlight Archive. I do like it. And this book does not change the fact that I like the Stormlight Archive, but it does put a little bit of a hesitation to recommend it if you're somebody who would rather read something with good prose. The rest of the book, the um I mean, Sanderson is kind of notorious for his prose, but as somebody who doesn't care as much about prose, I hadn't had any problems with his book before. This time I did, and we will get specific about that very soon. Yes, but I feel like this book would have been a 9 or a 10 if the editing had been done better, which is which might be harsh because this is a new editor for Sanderson, which is probably why it's so different from the other books. The prose and the tone of this book are markedly different from the previous 4 books, and I think it's because of the editor change that happened between 4 and 5. Oh yes, the specifics. I have 2 specific problems with that I think editing would have fixed. The first is that it feels like this book came out in uh 2023. It feels like maybe 2022, 2023. This era, specifically these within a few years, these last couple years, it feels like this is the exact space and time when this book was written and published, which is what happened but it's very obvious in the writing that that's what happened, and that's not the sort of thing that you want to be obvious when you're making art. You want it to be timeless. If it's okay if it feels like it's influenced by the time, but if it's this blatant, ugh. Other people reviewing have uh referenced not this exactly, but kind of this thing where it's breaking the immersion because it's using the language of today. One example of that is the word therapist, which I personally don't have a problem with because it is a term that Wit introduced, and maybe the person complaining about that uh, didn't pick up on that or forgot about it when he made that complaint. But there are other times where other people are complaining about the language people used. Um, that breaks immersion. For me specifically, the language was less of an issue than the cultural issues that came up. Specifically, the first half, not half, the first couple days of the book. The book split into 10 days. And the first day or two, there were a lot of steamy scenes. There wasn't anything detailed shown, which, so it was left up to the imagination, but that's not the sort of thing I want to imagine when I'm reading fantasy. And along with that, there was, a little bit of, uh, not a little bit, there was, a gay couple, which I could have, I did predict, based on things that I'd seen on the wikis, and also a trans thing happening, uh, which just looked like virtue signaling. It could have cut off right after Adolin was like, "Oh, the Azish do stuff weird," but no, he rubbed it in their face, and that was very distasteful and immersion breaking. I'm like, Sanderson, we don't need you to tell us that you're a lib. You're a popular author. That's most likely. Well, I can put that aside for another day. But yeah, the cultural liberal stuff made it feel very, very 2022, 2023, 2024, though. Now that we're in 2024 and that stuff is being rebelled against, I think we're gonna get less of that in the years moving forward. I hope we're gonna get less of that in the years moving forward. But I have a bigger, more egregious and grating issue, more personal issue. I say personal because it makes me personally angry. Um, and it is the number of times he uses the word somehow. I can be calm. I can be calm. It's okay. When you are a writer, there are certain words that are not ideal to use because they are weak, uninformative, vague, invoking confusion, or just not functioning at all. Let's see. Very is one of those words. Uh, with very, you could just delete very, or you could replace the adjective it's modifying with a stronger adjective. Another one is that. You usually don't need to use that unless it's essential to the sentence structure. The one I have uh, the most disdain for, the one I have the most disdain for, is the word somehow. It is, to me, like the F word. Okay, Because usually you could delete it and the meaning doesn't change at all, except to make it less vague. And when you're writing, you want things to be not vague, because vagueness is confusion, and confusion is bad. If you are making your readers confused, you are failing. Now, Brandon Sanderson tends to like the word somehow. For example, I also just a couple days ago finished The Sunlit Man for the first time, and I think that book had the word somehow in it 3 times. 3 times I feel like is okay. It's pushing a little bit, but it's kind of okay. See, the problem with the word somehow is you're telling the readers that even you don't know what is going on, and that's not okay. And it felt like while in Wind and Truth, while I was reading slash listening to Wind and Truth, it felt like that word came up every chapter. There might be some chapters where it's absent, but I'm sure there are chapters where it comes up multiple times. And every time I heard the word somehow, I'm like, no, stop it. Don't do that. And it rated my nerves and made me develop some more dislike. Yeah, made me feel dislike for the writing job that was being. That being said, if the editor had done control find somehow and then just deleted all of them, I probably would put the book at like an 8 or a 9 just for the lack of that. Because I can forgive a little bit of clunky prose, which did happen, which also could have been fixed by more rigorous editing. I can forgive a little few patches of clunky prose. I'm not that picky. But used somehow over and over and over and over is infuriating. It was driving me crazy. And the other thing is, it wasn't always in the narration, the part of what's describing what's happening, but a lot of it was in dialogue. And to have a whole bunch of different characters using the same word over and over and over and over again, it's it makes them feel like they have less of a unique voice. It makes them feel like they're all coming across as the same voice because they're using the same verbal tick by saying somehow uh, when they can't figure out how to describe something, or as just a filler word like it went into the air somehow. It's got this weird feeling somehow. It turned into this thing somehow. Stop it, please. Okay, that was my second issue that does not get into spoilers. Um, but other than that, I liked the book. Well, the story. I liked the story. I'm hesitant to say I liked the book because uh it could have been so much better, and I'm disappointed in the way it came out. But yeah, I liked the story. And if you can appreciate a book just for the story, then go for it. Seriously. It is a great story. Just be willing to uh overlook some things because there are things that need to be overlooked in order to enjoy this book. I would be able to give you more specific examples of things, but that would require rereading the book, and I don't really want to do that because uh, the prose made it painful for me, which is something that's never happened to me before. So, that ought to tell you something about the quality of the prose. But you've probably heard everybody else complaining about the quality of the prose. I just had some more specific things to say about it. Now, on to the spoiler review. Spoiler warning, we're going to talk about the other stuff, which will involve things that I did enjoy. I can actually talk about things I like now. Okay, we're gonna talk about we're not gonna go straight into the things I like though, because we're gonna gradually move into that. Okay, the first thing that I want to talk about in this spoiler section is the Dalinar thing and the Tanavas thing and the Blackthorn thing which are three different things. Actually, I don't know what I want to say about Dalinar. I generally liked what happened with him, though I was confused at some points, which, again, confusion is bad, and I don't know if I just didn't catch what was happening. But yeah. Specifically, the point where it was revealed what exactly the Stormfather was. When that reveal happened, I felt in my gut that there had been a revelation there. That this was like a boom, this thing is what it was. And I did not understand what that was supposed to be. It was like, I feel like I'm supposed to know something right now, and I don't know what it is. I felt the impact of it, but I did not comprehend it in my mind. So that was interesting. Um, yeah, I eventually figured out, I think, what the revelation was supposed to be, and maybe if I reread it, it would be clearer, but like I said, I don't want to do that right now. I might later if I decide to reread the Stormlight Archive. Oh, which I have a make a note of a way to reread it that would not be as painful. I don't know. An interesting way to reread it. I don't remember what I meant by the Dalinar thing. I liked. Oh, oh, now I remember. Okay, so when the last scene of Dalinar's perspective ended, I didn't grasp what was about to happen, and then the wind told Kaladin what had happened, and I was like, wait, what? Is that right? And yeah, I feel like it could have been delivered better. I don't know. And then the Blackthorn thing. Yeah, a lot of people have problems with Tarabangian grabbing the Blackthorn out of the spiritual realm. And I'm in that camp. That should not have happened. And I hope that can be fixed in the future, with some kind of retroactive explanation, maybe. But the next book's not coming out for 9 years. So, we're just gonna have to live with it for that long. Hey, it's Editing Rachel here, and I recently had an idea of how to make the Blackthorn thing work. And if it's done this way, then I could be okay with it. During the Tanavast chapters, it was revealed that Tanavast and cultivation work together to make Spren. So, shards can make Spren. And I think if Odium used the spiritual realm version of the Blackthorn to make a Spren of the Blackthorn, I think that's acceptable. Though it would have to follow the rules of Spren. So, like, Syl can't carry things very easily because she's a Spren, and things like that. You'd have to follow the rules of Spren. If that's the case, I'd be okay with it. Next is Gavinor. Oh my goodness. When Gavinor came out of the spiritual realm, I was angry. Not, but I wasn't angry at Sanderson. I was angry at Odium. So that's the good kind of angry. Being angry at the character in the book that you're supposed to be angry at. Oh my goodness. Oh, it was really unfair of Odium to do that. Um, and I'm not gonna say I I don't know whether I have an opinion about whether it was unfair of Brandon Sanderson to write that, because he did kind of foreshadow a little bit. Like, not in a way that I would have been able to see coming if I'd been paying more attention, but in a way that you look back and see, oh, yes, the pieces were there. Because uh, they were warned that the time could pass differently. And the Stormfather was like, think about what is happening to Gavinor. And also, actually, from a writing perspective, what other purpose is there for having Gavinor go into the spiritual realm if he's just going to come out just less scared of Spren? Yeah, as it was going on, I thought, oh, he's becoming less scared of Spren, and I thought that was nothing else to it, but that would have been pretty shallow, huh? So yeah, I'm not gonna say I object to the writing, story wise of that, but oh, as but it drew out some emotions, but that's a good thing, because it was the emotions it was supposed to bring out. Now Shallan, Shallan, okay. I was not impressed with Shallan's story this book, uh, and the last review I watched kind of echoed that sentiment. It felt like she was a placeholder, or she was there just for the tradition of having her in every book. And yeah, her character, it wasn't that impressive to me. Maybe it would be to other people, but I personally didn't get a lot from it. Speaking of traditions in the books and Shallan, there was a classic Shallan twist that was easily predictable. I'm not. I don't know if I would have gotten it without seeing the theories on Reactor while the first few chapters were coming out. But I do remember with pleasure the Shallan twists from the first and second book that I did successfully predict before they were revealed. I don't remember about the third and fourth book. Okay, but yes, I do like where she ended up. The stakes are high and I like them, and yes, high stakes are a good thing, and we will talk about that later when we get to Adolin. Um Haladin. Haladin. I did enjoy Kaladin and Zeth's story. There were some weird spots with Syl in the beginning, which goes back to the immersion breaking 2024 feeling stuff I mentioned earlier. But after like the first few days, it was mostly good, and I did enjoy where Kaladin ended up, and I think that Zeth's arc was also good, and his flashbacks, Zeth's flashbacks. A lot of people have commented that they are the best flashbacks of the Stormlight Archive, um, and yeah, I think I agree with that. I had expected them to go a different direction, but they surprised me, and it was a good sort of surprise. So yeah, that's that was good. And oh, the thing about this book that delights me to no end is has to do with Kaladin's arc, which might just be why I enjoy Kaladin's arc so much in this book. Which isn't so much of an arc as it is. It's kind of flat, but also kind of builds. Um, it is the fact that I can summarize Kaladin's arc by saying the most paladin of all paladins who ever paladin took a level in bard and then 20 more in paladin. Oh, and I love it. Yes, it was awesome. Um, okay, speaking of awesome, we come to Adolin. This is the last thing that uh, the last part of the book that I want to talk about, and the best part, which I think is the consensus among people who have read this book, is that Adolin's arc is the best arc, and I can tell you why, and it is because it has the best stakes. And it's not because he's dealing with world ending stakes. No. His stakes are arguably the least important of all of them. Because Dalinar, he's preparing for the Contest of Champions. Kaladin and Zeth are dealing with heralds and a whole country of people who are under the oppression of a weird darkness going on. And Shallan is dealing with the Ghostbloods who have untold levels of power. We don't know. But Adolin, his only job is to protect this city, the city of Azamir, and to stay alive while doing it, hopefully. If he had died in this book, I would have been upset. And it felt like both of those goals were in the balance the entire time. Like, I never knew whether to expect him to succeed or fail, and that was fantastic. Because with the other guys, with the other people, they're dealing with, like, world ending stuff. And this is the last book of the arc, and you can expect that they're going to succeed to some level. They're going to succeed at some level. Or else it wouldn't be a very good ending to the arc. But Adolin just had this one city to protect, to keep Azir, excuse me, to keep Azir as part of the coalition. And also, he needed to stay alive because he wants to live and stuff. Uh, but there were times, especially towards the end, when he fought the Thunderclass and it fell on top of him, I thought he might have died. I thought he might be dead. And maybe if I had the physical book in my hand and realized that there's like a ton left, then maybe I would have felt, no, there's no way he's dead with that much book left. But no, I thought he might have died when the Thunderclass fell on him. Instead, he lost his leg below the knee, which meant he couldn't fight anymore, which uh is the reason he was there. He was there to fight. And then they ran out of soldiers and he had to fight anyway. And then they lost the battle, and then he had to do this stealth mission and then fight a fuse one on one with nothing on him. But a shard bearer fused with Adolin's plate, which had been captured, and the Azamir shard blade, which had also been captured. He had to go up against a shard bearing fused by himself and do it with nothing but what he found in the throne room of Azamir, and it was fantastic. Before the book came out, I made 10 predictions about what would happen. Most of them were very, very off. But one of them was that Aelin would get Edge Dancer powers and then fight in the champion battle by doing like sliding and smacking. That didn't exactly happen. He was not the champion, but he did have a one-on-one battle, which is more than what we got from the actual contest of champions. And in that, he did slide and spat in the same, like, in the same 2 seconds. It felt like. And that was awesome as well. And I love that. Some people have problem with them calling themselves the Unoathed, but I don't have a problem with it. But yeah, Adolin's arc, mwah, chef's kiss. Fantastic. If this book had just been about Adolin, it would have been almost a 10. But yeah, speaking of the book being only about one character, I actually had an idea of how I could reread the series without having to slog through this book again. And that is to just go character by character. Like, just only read the Kaladin chapters of the 5 books. Or only uh the Adolin / Dalinar chapters of the first few books. I don't know. It would be kind of messy, and I don't know if it's entirely possible, but I think if I did reread Wind and Truth anytime in the near future, I would be skipping through uh a few chapters that I did not fancy listening to again unless I just wanted background noise. But even then, I don't want my background noise to grate my ears with continuous uses of the word somehow. So, those are my thoughts. Um, yeah. Let me know what you think, or what you thought about the book down below. Um, and yeah, stay hydrated. Bye.